Well, welcome, Christine. I'm so excited to meet you and hear what you have to say today. Would you like to start off? Just give a little introduction, and I pretty much know nothing about you, so feel free to, um, yeah, just let me know like your military experience, how you started, where you are now, and then we'll dive in a little more later.
Okay, great. Sounds great. So, for those who are listening to this, or maybe you're seeing this live, I am Christine Adams, and I served in the U.S. Army for 32 years. And what really started me out down that long, beautiful path was I needed school. I needed money for school, to be honest. And you would never think that that's a reason for somebody to come in and stay as long as I did, but it was my reason because discovering the military world, as you know, there's just something about it that's just so unique and fascinating. I mean, it was like my calling. It's like when I started crawling through the sand in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, I knew I had found the right thing that I was looking for in my entire life. And I was only 20 at the time. So it was the money that got me started. It was falling in love with it that kept me in. And yeah, 32 years is a long time.
That is.
People are like, what do you mean 32 years? I'm like, I lost track of time. And really, I kind of did.
Yeah.
When I went back and did the math, it was 32 years. So, but here I am now. And I would not change anything that I did in that 32-year time because it created who I am now and who I'm evolving into. And I think that's the beautiful part about serving in the military, regardless of the length of time that you are in. It really helps you discover who you are and why you are here because we all have a purpose in life. Sometimes it takes us a little longer to find it. Like for myself, I'm currently truly discovering my purpose in life, only to understand that the military was just a stepping stone to get there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. So how recent was your retirement?
I have been retired for just over 3 years now. So
Okay.
retired at the beginning of COVID and everything. So that was a unique experience in of itself, to be honest. You move military duty stations enough times, the challenge will be nice. You know the challenge of turning gear in, doing the paperwork, doing the move, starting all over again. And that was probably the easiest out crossing I ever had in that entire time because they would just wanted to hit the basics, give you your paperwork, and send you on your merry way. Not because I retired, but because so many of the sections that we go through are closed down. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was definitely fascinating. But to be honest, I was ready to sit home. I was ready
Yeah.
from a break to sit at home, not have to, follow a schedule on the calendar, get up super early, do any of that stuff. So, yeah, 3 years. It feels like just yesterday still, though.
Yeah, that's crazy. So I couldn't imagine leaving the military. One of my closest friends I made in the Navy, if you didn't know, I was in the
Yep.
Navy. He he separated from the Navy right in March of 2020, like as everything was crashing down, and he had to move to Oregon to start a new job. And that was just like horrible for him because like nothing was open, and the Navy just kind of like panicked and didn't know how to handle him out processing like the same time this
Yeah.
pandemic was happening, and he was
Yeah.
like, honestly guys, like I have my life together, just let me leave please. But what was it
Yeah,
like for
that's
you, like
it. It's funny
acclimating?
because I was actually doing all of that out processing in April of 2020.
Oh yeah, perfect
Yeah,
timing.
and what was fun is I actually was told to stay home 30 days before I even thought about out processing because the job I had at the time, which dealt with the cyber realm, I couldn't go in to work. I couldn't bring work home because of the classification level. So it was like one
Hmm.
of those, okay, we're telling all of these people to stay home, just call in once a day to let us know you're okay. And there it was. All of a sudden, I went from going 1,000 miles an hour to even just sitting 30 days before I started out processing at home. So it is different. It is a challenge. but I think it's a bigger challenge regardless of when you get out or choose to get out. It's just making that gap, or that bridging that gap, I call it, between the military world and the civilian world, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
We all hear stories about it. We think we're prepared for it, and we're not. In one
Yeah.
size or another, we're not. And it doesn't matter how long you serve.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I
Yes, I
think
totally understand
especially,
his struggle.
yeah. And moving to, like the West Coast was very strict on their shutdown too. So I think he like went and sat at his new job for like 3 months because they just didn't know what to do with him because they couldn't do all the in processing because of quarantine restrictions. And,
Yeah.
he just got paid to sit there. But um, I think, like, especially I joined at 18, so you don't have much time to like become a real adult. And then you join the military that like tells you everything to do, where to be, what to wear, and like health insurance. I'm my last day in the Navy was September 7th. So I'm like still working on my VA paperwork, but the like health insurance, I just had to Google like how do I get health insurance? How long until I am in trouble for not having health insurance, and um I was talking to my parents. They are very big on like just letting me go until I can't go anymore, and then I'll ask for help once I'm stuck. And I asked my mom like, "Can you tell me if this is at least the right type that I need? Because there's no like, it's just they expect you to know this stuff, and I
Oh my
don't."
gosh. And you're right. And then my challenge has been navigating the dental insurance side. And
Hmm.
I'm like, what coverage? What do I need? Because I never had to worry about that stuff. But
Right.
yeah,
And you still
it
get
is.
like TRICARE, but I'm sure it's still
Yep,
different. You're more on your own as a retiree, right?
a bit. Yeah. Yeah. Between TRICARE and the VA health side, I'm covered that way. I don't have to worry about anything. But then
Hmm.
when I go into the dentist and they're like, okay, well, this is what your benefits are for the year. And I'm like, explain this to me. And they look at
Yeah.
me weird, and I'm like, I've never had to do this before, to be honest. So,
Right. Like, what's a
yeah.
copay?
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
totally.
so did you join? You said Army, right?
I did.
Did you join as enlisted?
I did. So,
Okay.
it was actually towards the end of my sophomore year of college. Tuition was still going up. I needed money for school. My father, who was brand new in the recruiting realm with the National Guard, said, "Hey, just take a look. If it's something you think you want to do, we can get you some school money out of it, kind of thing. Then let's do it." He's like, "If you choose not to do it, there's no pressure from me." So that's what got me started, was my father. He actually was my
Mm-hmm.
recruiter. And then shortly thereafter, I found out that I was sort of a guinea pig for him, because he was bringing in a lot of the men, but he'd never had a woman come in and
Mm-hmm.
go through basic training that direction. So he had nothing to share as far as experience, or fall back that way with when it comes to his recruiting. And he was an amazing recruiter. I'm not saying that because he was my father, but people really connected with him. He was brutally honest, took care of everybody. I mean, just amazing. So yes, that's what got me started. Came in enlisted, um, was ready to switch over full-time active duty because I was at my MOS training. It's called AIT, and
Mm-hmm.
the drills and the drill teacher kind of people were like, okay, those who want to stay, we can do the paperwork, and you don't have to go back to your units. You can stay here full time, do it all, for 6, 8 years, whatever. And I'm telling my dad this on the phone. He's like, no. He's like, if you really want to do this full time, come back. We'll get you into ROTC at the school, because my school had a program. He's like, at least then you can commission, go for it then, at least you're making more money, kind of thing. Because he was enlisted. He didn't want me to go down that route, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
So that's what I did. Um, yeah. Set out a
that's
semester
awesome.
for, yeah, I set out a semester for AIT, set out another semester for Desert Shield, Desert Storm. That tells you any indication of how long I've been around. And then, yeah, and then commissioned and just went for it. So, but I had a blast with it.
Yeah, that is insane. I probably years 0 through 7, I was like, I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life, or until I'm ready to retire. And then COVID was definitely my turning point, and I was like, I cannot do this for the rest of my life. I think I'm done. But did you have like a turning point where you knew you were going to stay in and make a career, like basically stay as long as you can, or did you just kind of always know?
I just kind of knew from the beginning, as
Hmm.
strange as that sounds. I mean, but you came in 18, I came in at 20, so when you hear the, stay for 20, get the, retirement the rest of your life, you're thinking,
Yeah.
oh, that would be sweet. I retire at 40, 41, don't have to work anymore. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's, but again, it was I like to equate it to those people that are just love being, your pastors, your ministers, your firemen, your policemen, where they say it's just a calling. They know it's
Hmm.
right. That's the only way I can describe it for why I did what I did for as long as I did.
Hmm.
So yeah, it just was
What
something I'd
about,
been looking for and it was there.
yeah, I don't know, that's great to hear. I feel like some people choose to stay in the military because they like kind of don't have a better option, or they just feel like it's the easy choice and they are just stuck with it kind of. So that's really nice to hear, like someone that truly loved it and felt like that was their calling. For your boot camp training or basic training, what was that like being a woman?
That was different only because they had not done the integration at that point. So I
Okay.
came in 88. So we were
Okay.
truly just female platoons, with the respected drill sergeants, and we went through the exact same training that the men went through. So I had fun with it. Again, I try to have fun with everything.
Hmm.
So when our platoon got in trouble and the drill sergeant was like, we can't cheer each other on or be motivated that way, I found silent ways to do that where we weren't verbal about it. And they just look at you really funny. But yeah, it was an experience. I'll be honest that probably the third weekend I was ready to quit. Seriously, because lack of sleep, they wake you up at all hours, the stuff we were doing. I was mad at
Hmm.
my father. How could he get me into this? All those things that run around in your head.
Yeah.
But then something clicked again. My drill sergeant, he pulled me aside and he said, look, he's like, I know your dad recruited you. How they find this stuff out, I have no idea because I didn't say anything. He's like, do you think your dad would want to see you quit, and just walk away? So I kind of stayed a little bit for that, but something really switched on the inside and that really threw me into it 100%. Didn't matter how tired I was going to find a way to make it through. So,
Yeah.
and that's what I did.
So during or I guess like, are you able to touch on different like obstacles you had to face because you were a woman, or even if you felt like you got certain advantages because you're a woman? Like, what do you have to say about like just the general?
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't thought about this one. Standards, as you know, standards are slightly different between the male and the female when it comes to taking the physical training tests and things like that. But when it came to the actual basic training and all the obstacle courses and the weapon qualification, everything, there was no standard. We were all the same. You either learn that skill, passed it testing wise to move on, or you didn't. So I didn't really see a difference, to be honest, when it came to that. And I think that really set me up for everything I dealt with after that point.
Hmm.
Because it wasn't until you get out of that and then get out of your MOS training back to the unit that you really start to see the differences, in how we were
Yeah.
treated, and things like that, or how they wanted to, well, you're a girl, you can't do this. And I'm like, I can, watch me kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah. And
I
I,
was,
I
go ahead.
was about to say, so we all know what, I don't remember how many years back when they finally opened up all the MOSs for women to go into.
Hmm.
When I came in back in 88, that's when they first opened up the initial cusp of that. So that's where
Hmm.
women could now go and be a military police officer and some of the other combat service support arm kind of things. So my first job was actually in an MP company on the National Guard side that had maybe 200 men. and then 5 women. And I was one of those initial 5 women.
Oh.
So, yeah. So coming in and dealing with that environment where a lot of them were very supportive and open and thought it was neat. And then you got the crusty ones that are like, you have no business being here. You should be behind a typewriter kind of thing. So, yeah. But as you know, there's still crusty ones out there. There's still some out
Yep.
there that feel we should not be doing what we do. But I think we bring something to the military that if we weren't there, they would be lacking seriously. So,
Yeah. Anytime there would be someone that wasn't supportive of me doing my job as a woman or doing whatever I am, and you could just tell that they didn't think a girl should be doing that, I would just go try to do it better than them, and then they'd
yeah.
be more mad, but I got a kick out of it. So,
It is. It almost became
yeah.
an internal game for me, at least, of, okay, well, you think I can't do this? Watch me, you
Hmm.
know. And I never asked for special treatment, special favors, you know. I got married. I had 3 children, still did all of this stuff. Yeah, I didn't let anything slow me down.
Yeah, in my the Navy, it's A school, and in my training, I was an air traffic controller, so it's like the hardest school that the Navy has, and I was the only female in my class of like only 6 people. There's a high failure rate, and we're going through this like hardest phase of our schooling, and we had this Marine Corps staff sergeant that was known for just screaming and getting so like animated, and he'd find what makes you tick and use it against you, like, and just try to get you worked up before you go control these simulators. Absolutely destroy them. You know, not, he wasn't disrespectful,
Yeah.
he was just really hard on us. And then I would mess something up and he would just like huff and puff in the background and not yell at me. And so, and then we got back to our classroom and the guys in my class were like, Koslow, you are so lucky you're a woman. And the second they said that, I got so pissed off. And I walked to this female chief and I told her, like, Chief, I can handle this. If he wants to cuss me out and tell me how horrible I am, just so these guys get off my back, like, the smallest mistake I make tomorrow, I want him to yell at me. And he did. And I was just like grinning the whole time, like, yeah, it was my turn. But
Yeah.
I do think when I got to my first duty station, which was on a ship, I feel like as a woman, if I did like one thing just slightly good, like just a little bit above standards, it was like such a huge deal. And I would get like a lot more praise than the men
Yeah.
would because it was expected for the men to do it. Do you feel like you had a similar experience?
Yes. To the point where anytime, I mean, you know, they sometimes they hand out awards like candy, we call it, you know, okay, you
Mm-hmm.
put together a great conference. Here's an award. I'm like, but I don't
Yeah.
need this. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
supervised my team. My team did it. Let them have the treatment kind of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just, you know, it's like you, the screaming and yelling. I'm like, okay, it is what it is. You know, I
Yeah.
never let it get to me and I never let anybody see it get to me. That was the key.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean, besides handing out, you know, awards that I felt I didn't deserve because that's just how I am. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, nothing
Um,
strange.
and and then like as a so being on like a senior leadership side, do you feel like when you had a female that worked for you or that you were directly responsible for, did you feel like a sense of ownership for her, or like you kind of felt a need to like take her under your wing or anything?
I took everybody under my wing. It didn't
Mm-hmm.
matter if they were male or female because I felt
Mm-hmm.
that I needed to empower them, show that I trusted them because too many times you know, you come up through the ranks, you got the micromanagers, you got the screamer
Yep.
yellers. And I truly felt like if they were there, they needed to prove that they didn't need to be there. So, but I always encouraged and supported. I always got to know them and their families, you know, that way they
Mm-hmm.
were comfortable and they could bring anything to me too. So as I got higher up in the ranks, my team always knew you can go use my name in vain. Just make sure you come back and tell me. So if somebody questions me down the road, I can vouch for it kind of thing. That's the
Yeah.
level of trust I would give to my team.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Same. I would tell people all the time, like, tell them chief told you to, and I'll take the heat for it later. Like,
yeah,
just, you have
yeah,
my blessing to go do this, and if you get in trouble, blame it on me, because I'd
yeah,
rather, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I had another question. I just spaced on it. Let's see. What about, you made it all the way to Colonel, right?
I did.
I think that's
I
what I
made it all
saw.
the way to
Okay.
Colonel.
Very cool.
It,
What?
it, it is actually, because that was never my intention. I
Yeah.
just kept, one day you're on the list and the next thing you know, your daughters are pinning your eagles on your shoulder and you're like going, wow, this is kind of surreal. So yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Colonel is a big, no matter what rank, getting
yeah,
to 06 that's a big
yeah.
leap,
It is,
right?
it is a lot of work. Yeah. Cause
Hmm.
it's pyramided shape. When you move up through the ranks, they only bring so many in at each level kind of thing. So
Yeah. That was exactly what I was going to ask, is how did you balance, like, as I picked up rank, I started to try to be more mindful, and I struggled sometimes with, like, the work-life balance and trying to get my time to, like, reset and make sure that I'm mentally prepared for, like, the next workday. But as you pick up rank, the more, or the less work-life balance you have. How were you able to manage that?
I was an obsessive runner. Um, I did it for fun. And I've been doing it from high school up. So that became my reset every morning. So
Okay.
those morning runs, at 5 o'clock in the morning when it's dark through the neighborhood or wherever I was how I was able to kind of set the day expectations of what I knew I needed to get done for the day. And it helped me clear my
Hmm.
mind and meant I went to work with good endorphins flowing through me. That's how I would release the stress before I got to work most of the time. Um, that's really how I did it. But when you have kids that are in elementary school, junior high, high school, and they've got outside activities, it
Hmm.
does become a balancing act. So, but I always, from day one of having my first child, made sure that I spent time with them, that I had that time with them. And if I
Hmm.
couldn't do it, then they understood that what I was doing was important too, but I never left them
Yeah.
out to a point. So if it meant me giving up certain things that I enjoyed to do, minus the running, because that was my saving grace, um, that's what I did for them. But I had people who had families too, you know.
Hmm.
So if they needed to step out and take a young one to the doctor in the middle of the day, I'm like, go for it, because there's going to be times I have to do the same. As long as we got the cover we need where we need it, you
Hmm.
know. So yeah,
The
running was saving me. So,
yeah, mine was just breathing, and I think that's, like, so weird, but I would come home from work and I would do an hour of do not disturb on my phone, and then just take a minute to be literally alone. I would lay in my bed and just breathe, and I would probably doze off for a few minutes, and then after that I would go back to being responsive to people. And um but
yeah,
everyone that worked with me and for me knew that I needed that break, and then I would also support them when they wanted that break too.
yes,
And
yeah,
I demanded respect of my off time, and in return, I gave respect of other people's off time too. And
yeah,
it's very difficult to do in the military, because not everyone, it doesn't. The Navy doesn't stop, the Army doesn't stop, but
no,
it will survive if you take an extra hour to respond to an email.
yeah, yeah.
And I
And
think
you're
people
right.
forget that.
My decompression in the afternoons or evenings going home from work was that 30-minute drive.
Hmm.
That's where I could like drive away and leave work behind me at least 90% of the time, and then
Hmm.
get home and be fully present to deal with home life. So
Your second full-time job.
yes, it was a second full-time job. So
Yeah. Did you ever have to deploy while you had children?
I
And
did.
what was that
I
like?
did. It was challenging only because I was towards the end of a divorce at that point in time. My three daughters were staying with their father. I had one in middle school, one had just graduated high school, and the other one was in high school. So I was halfway around the world trying to support my oldest, who had gone to her freshman year in college, and she was having a hard time with roommates. And there's nothing that rips a heart out more than hearing your child crying on the phone. She doesn't like her
And you
roommates.
can't
They're
be
so
there.
mean to her, and I can't be there and do anything about it. So,
Mm-hmm.
but be supportive, and then maintaining that communication was key. I was fortunate to be in an area where I could communicate quite frequently, and we would get on Skype and everything, and I'd walk him around and show him my little metal box I lived in. But yeah, it is a challenge. So, and
Yeah,
I think
that
the
was
younger
one
the
of the
kids, yeah,
harder because they don't
yeah,
understand, right?
they were old enough to understand. So,
That's
but
good.
making sure that I kept that communication going was
Hmm.
important. I'd send them the cool care packages and stuff like that. So,
That's really nice.
yeah.
There was a girl I worked for. So in the Navy, you have to do mess duty when you're at your first ship, and we call it cranking. I don't know if they still call it that, but there was a Navy cook that I worked for, and she was like my mom on the ship. She was so sweet, and she had two kids, and she would cover for me at work because she needed childcare. So she would say that I was cleaning the like staff NCO berthing for females, and all of the like senior leadership for the cooks were males, so they couldn't go in there. So that was my like hiding spot, even though I wasn't there. And I would go to her house and babysit her kids for her while she had to work.
Yep.
And her youngest daughter was 4 or 5, and we went out to sea for 3 months, and we came back, and her daughter didn't remember her, and it was just the most heartbreaking thing to watch because I was with her, like excited to see her kids too after we had been gone. And it was the next day at work, she was just like sobbing all day because she felt so bad. She left her daughter, and her daughter didn't understand why she was gone. And
Yeah.
that would be, I couldn't imagine. I don't have kids, but I couldn't imagine going
Yeah,
through
I
that.
was I was fortunate that I didn't have to do my deployment till my kids were much older, so
Hmm.
they understood. But
Yeah.
it would tear my heart out too if I had to leave a 3 or 4 year old and they didn't remember me
Hmm.
or think
Of
of me
course,
as a stranger.
yeah, after a day or two, they warmed back up to her. They didn't forget her
Yeah.
completely, but
Yeah.
it was definitely, they were not excited to see her.
Well, I mean, think about it. I mean, you've got, we get friends in our lives. They move away on us. When they come back into our lives again, it feels awkward at first. So
Hmm.
it's just part of our growing process.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are you doing now that you have spent
Ah,
half your life, over half of your life,
I spent most
Army?
of my life in the Army. So I am still figuring out who Christine really is because, when you come in at 18 or 20, you don't really know who you are at that point in time anyway. And
Hmm.
then the military tells you who they want you to be and how to dress, act, walk, and talk. Um, I was super excited when I hung the uniform up, and then I'm sitting at home working on building one business. So I do network marketing. That's what kind of made me figure out it was time to retire. And it was actually a phone call conversation with a complete stranger one day off of LinkedIn. He was looking for female veterans to interview because he was doing a play character and he wanted some reference stuff. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll sit there and share my story. And it was after about probably a 90-minute phone call that I realized after I hung it up that I was just going to be quiet about my retirement, not let the world know. But then I realized that the world needs to know that we serve.
Hmm.
And I started down that path of really reaching out and connecting with other veterans, particularly females, and just saying, hey, I just want to hear what you did, what your story is like, your experience. Our stories are so powerful, and so many women do not let the world know they served. You could be sitting next door or 2 doors down from somebody in the neighborhood, and she probably did 8 or 9 or 10 years or retired that way. But because she doesn't wear it, talk about it, display it, or say anything about it, you would know.
Hmm.
And I'm figuring it out that most of the women don't want to talk about it because they're tired of proving themselves. because of how much we put into proving that we're worthy to be in the military, or they had a really bad experience and they just want to forget about it. So
Mm-hmm.
that then led me to figuring out, how do I help these women transition? Because some of them are okay with serving and letting the people know, but they struggle with that transition period. How do they bridge that big gap, which can be as big as the Grand Canyon, it looks like,
Yeah.
um, successfully, and figure out what they're supposed to do in life now? So in a nutshell, the last 3 years of my own self-discovery with personal development and everything. So I'm now a certified life and mindset coach. I'm a health coach,
Okay.
and I work with women, mainly the female veterans, because that's just what I know, in kind of figuring things out. I like finding our purpose again. Like, your
Yeah.
purpose is obviously going to be this podcast. This is going to be amazing. Can't wait to see where it goes with this one.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. My purpose is helping women figure out their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So, it could be a stay-at-home mom who just sent her youngest one off to first grade, and now she's sitting go home going, okay, now what I do, because her whole
Yeah.
identity was wrapped up as being a stay-at-home mom. She still is, but there's no littles there. You and I wore the uniform, and now we're like, oh, so now what is our purpose or our mission? Because we're so used to
Mm-hmm.
having a mission. We're so used to having that team and, taking care of each other. So that's what I'm working on building. It's just a coaching service for women just like that. It's beautiful because I've been with a coach myself since I got out 3 years ago. And every time I get ready to wrap up a year with her, she pivots on me in a good way and
Yeah.
starts bringing some more amazing things to the table. Exactly what I'm looking. That's my purpose right now. Still figuring out who Christine is, but I have a good idea who she is now.
Mm-hmm.
But I love absolutely pouring into others and bringing them along and just getting them to kind of figure things out. I can't give you the answer, but I can mentor and coach you through how you find the answer, because we all have the answers on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm working on.
That's really cool. I didn't know. I think in the past year, I've learned a lot about like different life coaches and just I've read and learned a lot about mindset and that's I don't know, you don't know what you don't know, and I didn't know that this like realm of um having that as a business, I guess, was a thing. And it's been really cool to learn how many people are involved in this. And um, so, I guess, what mindset shifts have you made personally since leaving the military to help you with this transition?
It actually all started probably January, a couple months before I started terminal leave. I actually started going to networking groups just so I could learn how to be normal again and talk
Yeah.
to people and not use acronyms. So that's really what started it, and everything. I've read a lot of books, but if you don't apply what you learn out of those books, then you get nowhere.
Yep.
But having an actual coach, um, and I brought her on initially because she was teaching those of us that wanted to learn branding and social media stuff. This was even before I wanted to be a coach, to be honest. I just wanted to figure out, how do I get back on Facebook? Because we're taught not to
Yeah.
do that stuff, and not look like a complete dork kind of thing. So that's where she started. And then she pivoted and moved into the whole coaching piece. And then when she offered mindset certification coaching, I went with it because she was certified by Bob Proctor. And I love Think and Grow Rich and just all that stuff. It's like you have to be able to look at your past and connect all those dots that got you to this point in time for you to really understand why what happened to you happened, and why you're
Hmm.
doing what you're doing now. So now I'm diving deep into what's called the gene keys, which is part of human design. So yeah, I'm just always learning and unpacking myself, kind of thing.
That's very cool. I feel like I could just talk about this like I don't
Oh,
know.
we
I
could.
love yeah, I went to my last year in the Navy. I finally went to therapy. Just like I mostly needed. I'm just a scatterbrain in my head, and um, I just mostly needed to unpack all of these thoughts and just get them out somewhere. But it's I have friends that are in the creative industry as well. I'm a wedding photographer, and I have some close friends that do it as well. And one of them goes to therapy as well. And her therapist told her that the reason that she's a boudoir photographer, and she said the reason that she loves um, photographing women and empowering them is like because of childhood trauma that she experienced, and she's trying to subconsciously heal that trauma through helping other women feel good about themselves. And she was like, can you believe that like our brains just do this without us even thinking about it?
Yeah.
Like,
It's
and
it's
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 her own
amazing.
like, yeah, her own form of therapy that she didn't even know she needed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the first couple years of our lives is where our paradigms or our thought belief systems are formulated,
Mm-hmm.
and then they become so deeply ingrained that we think that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a while to unpack some of that sometimes. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
And
so
I'm
fascinating.
sure everything I'm doing has something deeply related that way too, but
Yeah,
I haven't gone there yet. So,
yeah.
32 years, you build these walls around you. This is something
Mm-hmm.
I like to share. And sometimes there are boxes that you pack the emotions in and you stack it behind you, because if you cut off yourself from the emotion, you can focus and get the job done calmly. But all these duffel bags, I built these walls around myself for so long. And that was also part of my transition phase, was to start unpacking some of these duffel bags, learning how to process the emotions that come through, because you spend so long ignoring them,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't know how to handle them. So I did that process. So some duffel bags I opened, just like moving boxes. You've got that one or two box that you carry around for 20 years on 6 moves that you never unpack. That's how it was. Some
Mm-hmm.
duffel bags I just cut sling. We just throw them overboard. We don't even look at them. And then there's some that I'm just not quite ready yet. But
Yeah.
to be able to learn how to, this is another thing when you leave, learning how to process those emotions in a healthy way,
Mm-hmm.
um, allows you to move through them quicker too. I'm learning.
Yeah.
So it's
I
okay for
think
me to be angry, upset, or sad, but I can't suppress it anymore. I have to let it actually go through the process, like in one door and out the other door. And then
mhm.
I'm able to move on better. So
Yeah, a lot of people are so busy, like keeping on the trend of your analogy, that like they are so busy in their military career that they are just go 100%, and they're constantly pushing those duffel bags back from falling
yeah,
over, and then they get out and then they're stuck sitting there and the duffel bags just
yeah,
fall. Ready or not,
yeah,
here we come. Like,
yeah,
and you just
totally.
have to sit with all of this stuff, and it hits you pretty hard, some people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get it. Some things we don't want to talk about, but
Hmm.
some things it's okay to talk about. If not to
Yeah.
somebody, at least to acknowledge it to yourself, embrace
Hmm.
it, and let it go through. It's like the grieving process when you lose a loved one or somebody. You've got to go through that process. You can't ignore it because
Yeah.
it's part of the healing.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I want to be able to help women um, share their stories and shout from the rooftop that we proudly serve. There's nothing wrong with us
Hmm.
serving.
Yeah.
Um,
We shouldn't be embarrassed or ashamed of saying that we served, because I did the same thing as Grandpa over here wearing his little like retired army hat. I
yeah,
just don't think that is cute, so I don't want to wear it.
it's like, and this is something I have to work on. I was just thinking of this the other day. You know how Home Depot or Lowe's Home Improvement have the veteran parking spots and places like that.
Hmm.
So I'll park there once in a while, and I'm always like bracing myself before I get out of the car just to see if somebody says something, you
Yeah.
know. And I'm like, I shouldn't be feeling this. So
Yeah. Yeah, we have those in my town at like Starbucks and almost
Yeah.
every I still live in the town from the my last duty station that I separated from. So there's veteran stuff everywhere and it's
Yeah.
super patriotic. But I went to the grocery store and I thought about parking in it and I was like, nah, someone else needs it more than me. And then as I was walking in, I was like, oh my God, I'm a veteran now. Like I can do that if I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any advice or if you have any like stories you'd be willing to share about people that you've worked with um, to like help them with their transition?
I really think that if you're thinking about getting out, it's never too late, even if you start thinking about this 4 or 5 years before you get out. Because the more time you have to plan and lay the groundwork, I think the easier the transition will be for some people. But
Hmm.
just take the time. I mean, I even to the day I retired, I see so many people, and it's always the higher ranking ones that want to work up till the nth hour and then try to do everything in a 10-day window and think they can walk away with a plan in hand. And you just can't do that. You've got to, I've got one friend, she teaches over in Italy at the transition point there. She's always like, it doesn't matter what the rank is. If you stick around long enough to retirement, you need at least 5 years before that point to make sure that you're financially set up. Have
Yeah.
that plan in place, understand a budget, set stuff aside to get you through that bridging gap, whatever you want to call it, between retirement, maybe another career, if that's the way you go.
Hmm.
My advice is make sure that you are doing what you want to do after you retire. Don't think that you have to be a contractor or a government service employee because that's what everybody else does.
Yep.
Um, you do not have to go that route unless you truly want to, and you know that that's
Yeah.
just a bridging gap to something bigger you're going to do.
Hmm.
Um, because I see so many get out and then they're the world's worst, grumpiest civilians as the GS. And they
Yeah.
do it until I forget, they work till they're 70, 75. And I'm like, that's not living either.
Right.
So, I mean, we do what we do, we serve. So why do we have to continue working, working, working
Hmm.
and not live? So yeah, take your time and figure out what you want to do. And it's okay to dream big and do something different. I knew a
Absolutely.
couple years before I even retired that if I retired, I didn't want to work for anybody. And I was very adamant about that. I said, whatever I bring home for retirement money, I'm going to make it work. And that's what I've done. Because now
Hmm.
I'm my own boss. I don't have to get the
Yeah.
permission to go places. The,
It's
the, the
pretty
one or
cool,
two
huh?
things I do, the one or two things I do, I can take and work it anywhere. It's not like I have to work from the house. So,
Hmm.
so if I go to the mountain house for a couple of days, I can take my laptop. I can still do what I need to do. But yeah, it's having that freedom. So, but yeah, I just want more of us to dream big and do what we want to do, or
Yeah.
like I said, take that time and just figure out really what your purpose in life is. Maybe
Yeah.
like me, 32 years was that was just, as I like to say, that was just getting me started for the next step of my life. I don't see that as,
Hmm.
a chapter that it was a whole book that I closed off, but it taught me so much to open up and write a whole new book. So,
Yeah. That's very nice. For if you were to give advice to, I have a couple ways I want to go with this, but let's start with if you were to give advice to a woman that's currently in the military, officer or enlisted, and they plan on making it a career, they really want to be successful. What's like one or two key pieces of advice that you would give them to be successful in their military career?
um, advice would be to always be yourself. Don't try to be somebody just because they say you need to be somebody. I mean, we have to play the game to a point, but always be true to yourself, which means, trust your people, support them, encourage them, build that team, that family mentality concept.
Hmm.
Um, Never be a screamer yeller, but never be the ditzy blonde, I used to call it. Because there's a fine line to walk between being
Yeah.
the yeller, because we've all dealt with them. And then those that just you're thinking, how on earth did they even get this far? Because they just,
Yeah.
yeah. So that would be my advice. don't let anybody talk you out of it. If you want to do the full 20 plus years and that's truly what's on your calling in your heart, then do it. You're going to have some tough assignments. We all do, but it's how you make those tough assignments work that make it so much more enjoyable.
And then moving into, let's say, like your senior leadership, like, yeah, just senior enlisted or officers in general. Do you have any advice or like lessons learned from specifically being a female in like the higher ranks?
I always walked on the wild side, as weird as that sounds, and not what people are probably thinking. I I dealt with the black and white regulations to a point, but if there was a gray area, then that's where I like to explore as well. Because too many times we're stuck in a box, we think in a box. Too many times we've grown up in the rank. Well, this is how we always do it. It's okay to change, but have fun with it. Once I got my what we call 20-year letter on the reserve guard side, even though I was active duty most of my life, that's like a get out of jail free card in our world. So when we get that letter, it's like, okay, what are they going to do? Fire me now? Because I got
Yeah.
this. They can't. That's like
Yeah.
you've hit sanctuary. When I got that is when I really started having fun as a leader. Not that I didn't
Hmm.
before, but I really had fun. Like one of my last few jobs, a couple years in, I was dealing with general officers, and I took a lot of top cover from my team, as I should, but I made sure I had fun doing it too. You know,
Hmm.
so I got away with stuff I probably wouldn't have gotten away with, like hanging taco memes outside my office. We'd do a taco potluck once a month. You know, the office was never decorated for Christmas. I mean, just it's the little things sometimes, but it can make the world to everybody else who just struggles too. So,
Yeah.
but never you're gonna have the hard jobs, but you've got to have fun doing it. You got to
Yeah.
find a way to have fun doing it because if you don't, it's going to be miserable. And then if
Right.
you're trying to go for 20 years, it's going to be miserable.
Yeah.
So there's
The
my advice. Have
military
fun.
isn't meant to be fun. It's just what you do with it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I always tried to have fun. I still try to have fun. So,
Hmm. We would be on deployment, and in the Navy you're just on this gray literal box floating in the water, and we would go like a couple months without hitting a port visit. And I remember it was Halloween, and we had gone quite a while without hitting port, so we are stuck on this ship like Groundhog Day every day. And um, we did a haunted house contest throughout the entire ship, and people went all out because you can order like Amazon packages to
oh
the
yeah.
ship. It just takes weeks. And oh my gosh, like we got creative, used like ketchup and Tabasco sauce mixed together as fake blood, and
Oh
people
my
were putting
gosh.
it on their faces, and of course had some allergic reactions. And took some like sheets from their racks and threw it up to stain it with blood. And they would get like chainsaws from the machine shop, and just it was so fun doing that,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
seeing how creative people got with our random Navy stuff. And
Oh yeah.
like a Thanksgiving party. And um, if
I,
we didn't have people on the ship making it fun, it would be like that morning we all wanted to get all of our work done so that we could go have fun in a haunted house thing
yeah.
on the ship. And you just look forward to it when you have someone that creates those
Yeah.
good experiences. It
Yeah.
subconsciously makes you want to work better.
It does. And it's like you said, it breaks up the monotony because, I
Yeah.
my deployment was in Kuwait, 9 months, stuck on base there. So we looked forward to the monthly 5K runs that
Mhm.
MWR would put on. Yeah, decorating all the cubes for Christmas. You're right, Amazon ships anywhere. So,
Yeah.
but it was those things to look forward to and have fun with. So, yeah,
Hmm. And especially seeing like your senior leadership have fun. Because I was very junior when I deployed, and just seeing like the captain of our ship take a break from being upstairs to come down and wear some ridiculous costume, or
Yep.
run a 5K in his coveralls or something. Like that really just made it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So I think the last two questions I have, I know we kind of touched on it, but it would be just in general advice for women that are thinking about joining the military, and then women that are thinking about starting a business, regardless of military experience. What pieces of advice would you give them?
So joining the military, I think, is a good thing for everybody to experience. It doesn't matter how long you come in for. I think it really teaches you who you are without knowing who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's like understanding what your boundaries are. It's understanding just how resilient you are in so many ways, because resiliency is slightly different than mindset. And I think if you don't challenge yourself, or you are stuck with that belief system that, well, I'm a woman, I'm not supposed to do that, it's going to hold you back that way too, which leads into doing anything business related. If you serve in the military, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But if you have a burning desire to create something and call it your own, then do it. So I wanted to do network marketing initially as a business, and now that's the foundation of everything that I'm moving into.
Yeah.
I had no idea that I was going to have a second business of moving into the coaching world. So, and then that may lead into a third business of the speaking world, as I
Mm-hmm.
start to pull other female vets together to put a book together, and we go that route. So you just never know where it's going to lead you, but don't be afraid to try it, and don't let anybody tell
Yeah.
you not to try it. Sometimes you got to throw the mud at the wall and make it stick to see what's going to work too. But
Yeah. And don't
yeah,
stop till it sticks.
don't stop till it sticks. And then, make sure that what you choose to do is what gets you out of bed every day. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have a burning desire to do it, it's not going to get off the ground either. So,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Well, thank you so much. Do you have any links to social media or a website or
I do have
sharing
a
your
website.
business
Yep.
name?
No, I do have a website. It's still kind of
Okay.
in draft construction, but there's enough there to get you in trouble with me. So it's going to be Christine-Adams.com. That's my website. And then, of course, anybody can find me on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook under Christine.in.Adams. So, yeah,
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think we're going to wrap it up.
great. I had fun. This
Cool.
was awesome.
Me too. Good.